kick off this podcast, I just want to make a few fact checks because within the podcast that I made a few errors. So Jalen Turner actually won via submission. So after he knocked down Brock Weaver, he actually sunk in a rear naked choke there, and that's how he won. So when that fight comes up, just remember that. And also when I talk about Roosevelt Roberts versus Kevin Kroom, Roosevelt Roberts' debut was not against Brock Weaver. That was just the first time he fought this year, and I guess the first time I ever heard of him. And he has I believe it's just to get this right, let's see here. He has I'm almost 100% positive he has a bout money tattoo on his chest, not get your money. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, I think that's it. I just didn't want to spread any false information, but thank you guys. Enjoy the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. I just wanted to make a few fact checks because I don't like when I say the wrong stuff, but I was kind of rushing through it because I was like so excited to talk about it. But thank you guys and enjoy. What is going on, Jonah?
How's it going?
How are you doing?
Very good.
That is awesome to hear. I could be doing a little bit better. It's been a rough day for me today, but it's okay.
What happened?
Well, the Giants got swept. Their doubleheader, they got swept against the Padres because they had a false positive test. Alex Dickerson had a false positive test, and then the Niners lost today, which is amazing.
Are they back below 500 now?
Yeah, just one game below 500. But yeah, before we kind of start this episode, dude, the freaking Nuggets.
Yeah.
What do you think it happened? They don't play tomorrow though, right? They play
on Tuesday again. But I guess if I had to give a quick synopsis of what happened this entire time, I thought the Clippers' biggest strength was going to be their depth and their bench, and that ended up being their biggest weakness. They got absolutely slaughtered in the where like Lou Williams and in particular Montrezl Harrell were out on the floor. When Montrezl Harrell and Jokic are on the floor at the same time, it's just an absolute slaughter fest for the Clippers. They get killed. Montrezl Harrell looks terrible. I think Doc Rivers has got to do whatever possible to keep Harrell off the floor, whether that's just playing Zubats more than he has been, whether that's trying to buy JaMychal Green minutes at the 5, whether it's even using Kawhi to guard Jokic and Paul George to guard Murray and just switching. I don't know. Whatever he's got to do to keep Harrell off the floor, I think you go for it. And then you just got to hope Shannon and Lou Williams can give you something on offense. And I think that's going to be the key for the Clippers surviving.
If they don't win, our whole last episode's a bust.
I know. If the Nuggets win, we're gonna have to do an emergency podcast.
No, 110%. And you're doing a public apology.
Okay.
All right. Okay. And also, I just want to point this out. I've added a couple things to my background here. This is a puzzle of AT&T Park, which is now Oracle Park, and it took me and Bianca forever to make, so I put this in a frame.
That's so cool. You can see the bridge in the background.
Yeah, everything there.
Is that how it is in real life, that you can see the bridge in the background?
I don't know. Oh, actually, yeah. Because actually, really? Yes. Yeah, you can see that. Because when you're driving into the city, you can see Oracle Park right there.
That's so cool. That's got to be one of the coolest baseball stadiums in America, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then also, you've never been? No, yeah, it's sweet. It would be sick if we went to the Giants game sometime. That'd be awesome. But then I also put a classic Golden State Warriors pennant right there, but you can't really see it because my head's blocking it.
I can see it.
Yeah. Well, you can't see it now.
No, not anymore.
No, but so I just really wanted to make this episode because I wanted to talk about the crazy fights that took place on Saturday. This will be out Monday, and today is Sunday. It wasn't the best Sunday for me, as I'm probably going to mention this a few times throughout the podcast, that I'm a little bit depressed right now. But it's okay. We're going to get through it, and I think we play the Jets next.
Okay.
And the Jets are going to get stopped. We all did pretty well on our...
Really? I did good.
I think we did pretty well on our predictions, but I'll add them up after Monday.
But I know the Dolphins lost. So I lost a little bit there.
Yes, and then there is another one where you guys lost the Vikings game, and I'm the only one that picked the Packers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But
out of all 5 of us.
Huh?
Out of all 5 of us?
Dude, Jared and Luke still haven't sent me their thing.
Oh, they
So I'm
did.
just going to forget about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think they just spaced on it, but it's cool. So all right, I just wanted to go through really quickly, like some of the top fights. Basically, all of them are super solid. I know you didn't get a chance to watch any because sports are kind of like it's overwhelming now because everything's back.
It's
pretty,
awesome.
yeah, it is pretty sick. What would you say you're kind of going to be into more once basketball winds down?
Well, with it being like such a like 24 or 12-month a year sport, like honestly, once basketball's over, I'll probably start focusing on the draft and free agency and stuff.
Dude, you're just committed.
Yeah, I'll probably start.
You need to become an NBA journalist.
No. No.
You just should cover the Blazers.
I don't want to have to write that much, but
yeah, that's true. You don't have to write that much. You try to couple paragraphs.
Once the season's over, I'll probably start watching even more film about like the guys who are going to be in the draft and start working on that. But I'll probably start watching football, I guess, or baseball because it'll be the playoffs for baseball, huh?
Yes, sir. October.
Yeah, I always get excited for like baseball playoffs and World Series.
That's cool that you do because. Yeah, I will too, depending on if the Giants are in it or not. If they're not, I don't really care that much.
I can pretty much get myself excited for like playoffs in any sport. I feel like basketball is really the only sport where I follow the regular season super closely.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to get involved and like get excited if I don't have like a connection to something, or unless there's a really good storyline too. If there's a really good storyline that pulls something in like an underdog, like I'll watch it.
And if Portland ever gets that MLB team, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like watch baseball all the time. But
100%, I could see it happening. I mean, they're trying hard, but I think it's kind of everything's kind of taken like a backseat to Corona and everything. You know,
if Portland got a baseball team, you wouldn't switch allegiances from the Giants, right? Like you'd stay.
No, but I would try to go to games and watch.
That's what I thought. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, I would for sure go. I would take advantage of that 110%, but I'm not going to switch team just because it's not like because I'm still a Warrior fan. I'm not like a Blazer fan.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if Oregon got a professional football team, I would still be a 49er fan too. I don't think Oregon ever would.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, unless they did a big ass expansion, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. We'll get into this later. Okay. So starting off the day was, Justine Kish versus Sabina Mazo, and this fight was actually sick though because Justine Kish was so tough, and like usually I don't know, like a lot of fights, especially sometimes like the first ones right out of the gate, guys kind of feel themselves out a little bit, but like Justine Kish was so good, and she was following up all of her strikes with like heavy leg kicks, like constant, like she'd throw like a jab and then throw like 2 leg kicks, like haha, and then like it was really sick. But then Sabina Mazo, she's a really good striker herself, but she like kept kind of clipping Justine Kish with head kicks throughout the fight, and eventually that was the kind of the end of Justine Kish. But this fight I feel like really set the tone, and then Sabina Mazo eventually clipped Kish with a head kick, and that dropped her, and then she eventually sunk in a rear naked choke on the ground. But yeah, it was a hella good fight. And then following that up, another like Brian Barberena, as he's kind of not like a gatekeeper, but he's just like a really good guy for the division because he's kind of a brawler, and he's just kind of because the top of the welterweight division is so loaded with kind of wrestlers and not necessarily strikers. But he's a really fun like alternative guy, and he fought Anthony Aquaman Ivy, and this fight was pretty sick. Like Brian Barberena, although he has super heavy hands and he's coming back from back surgery, and I'm sure his doctor is just ecstatic that he's going to go right back to fighting after getting like extensive back surgery. But he's really good, super good. Has pretty good takedown defense, really heavy hands, and it was a really good fight. And Brian Barberena ended up winning a unanimous decision. On 2 of the judges' scorecards, he won at 30-27, which is impressive. But I think this is a really good learning experience for Anthony Aquaman Ivy because he hasn't fought like some of the guys Brian Barberena has. Brian Barberena has fought like Colby Covington. And I want to talk about that fight a little bit. Like, I'm praying to God none of those fights fall out because that card literally could be like it's better than some of the pay-per-view cards. So you have, Jonah, I swear, you have to watch it next Saturday. Okay. Some of the guys that are fighting it's insane. You'll definitely get some new fan favorites. And then Jalen Turner versus Brock Weaver. I don't know what the future is for Brock Weaver. He has like a Native American heritage, so he always comes to fights in like the headdresses or like in a hat and stuff. And he looks sick, but he's kind of been struggling lately because he's been fighting pretty good guys. And Jalen Turner, 155 pounds, he's 6'3", super long for the division, and he kind of just is a precise, calculated striker. And I think he got him out of there in the second. Yeah, he got a knockout in the second round. It was a nasty hook that just dropped him. But the crazy thing was that Jalen Turner thought he was done, so he walked away. He's like, no, it's over. And Herb Dean, the referee, didn't even call the fight yet. So he ended up having to go and start. I think Brock eventually tried to make it to his feet or something, and then Jalen Turner just kind of had to pour it on a little bit more with some ground and pound, and eventually they stopped it. But yeah, it kind of took away like a walk-off knockout from Jalen Turner, but it's fine. And then the next one is hilarious because it was two guys that definitely don't have the best physiques, but in heavyweight, I guess like they're really athletic bodies underneath, like maybe not the best physique. And like Roque Martinez versus Alexander Romanov. Alexander Romanov basically destroyed poor Roque for like the whole entire time that they were in the cage, because Alexander Romanov, a lot of those guys, they have such good like wrestling or like judo and sambo, and he pretty much just threw around a massive man. And Michael Bisping, one of the like announcers, was talking about how like they were testing the structural integrity of the octagon when they were throwing takedowns. But yeah, Alexander Romanov basically took him to the ground like whenever he wanted to, and then sunk in like an arm triangle and he was laying on top of him. It was basically just nasty ground and pound, and he was just like King Kong and like just two hammer fists and going like this on the poor guy. Yeah, Roque had a tough time, but he's tough. And then did we do performers of the week last week? Our last episode? We should do this okay. One of mine is definitely Kevin Kroom. He's been fighting in a different promotion. He's been trying to make it to the UFC for like 13 or so years, and he finally got his shot. And I think he's fluctuated between like Bellator and another one, but he finally got a shot against Roosevelt Roberts, who had a really good I think his debut was against Brock Weaver, the guy that got knocked out by Jalen Turner, and then I think he sunk in a rear naked choke there, Roosevelt Roberts did, and then he took a tough loss against Jim Miller. He got an armbar, and it was hilarious. Roosevelt Roberts like texts or he DM'd Michael Bisping before the fight, like the announcer saying, "I'm gonna I can't wait to talk to you after my knockout" or whatever. And then Kevin Kroom, he cracks Roosevelt Roberts in like the first 20 seconds of the fight with the overhand left. Correct, and then wobbles Roosevelt Roberts, hurts him, and then Kroom sinks in like a standing guillotine, and then he had to tap. That's what happened. But how embarrassing is that, to call your shot and then basically have what you wanted to do to the other person happen to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has a big, Roosevelt Roberts has a big "Get Your Money" tattoo on his chest. He only got half his money that night. But yeah, Kevin Kroom, he's a savage, and I'm really happy for him. Like I've said many times, stay ready because you never know when you're going to get your shot. And he definitely took advantage of the opportunity. And even beating such a tough guy, like you never know what your next fight could be. Because if you beat a really tough guy, you almost like kind of not jump the ladder, but you put yourself in a better position to get even a better fight your next time. Or even if a better guy like falls out of a fight, you can like raise your hand and be like, yeah, I'll do it. And since you have such an impressive performance like that, the UFC will have a tough time turning you away. You know what I mean? Especially if you're an exciting fighter. And then the prelims main event, Julia Avila, she's so good, and she fought Sajara Eubanks. I've never seen Sajara fight, but Julia Avila had a really impressive W her last time. She came in, I forget, let me see exactly who she fought. Her first fight was against, Gina Mazzani. And Gina Mazzani, she kind of cracked Julia Avila with a few shots. And then Avila did a really good job of like kind of weathering the storm. And then all of a sudden she just hit her with this like super impressive flurry, like overwhelming kind of flurry. And I think that was her plan, to what she wanted to do to Sajara Eubanks. But then Sajara took the fight to the ground and kind of neutralized Julia's striking. But when they're on the feet, it was really impressive. But Julia wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. Sajara pretty much controlled her, and then got a unanimous decision. And then for like the first fight of the main card, Kyle Nelson versus Billy Quarantillo. Billy Quarantillo is an absolute savage. He's won like 3 straight fights since he's got signed from the Dana White's Contender Series. And Kyle Nelson kind of gave him a little bit of early adversity, but then Billy Quarantillo started cracking him with hard shots and started making it kind of a gritty, grindy fight, grinding him against the cage, getting a few takedowns. And then Billy eventually in the third round, like he hurt him bad, and he hurt Kyle Nelson really bad in the third round. And then Billy cracks him at the opening bell, and he just like Kyle Nelson did a chicken dance, and then they just called it. Like it was a really good stoppage because Billy Quarantillo was about to follow up with some strikes, and I think it was Mark Goddard like jumped in there and saved Kyle Nelson. But yeah, it was a really good stoppage. Yeah, dude, like I literally could talk so much about all of these fights. They were so good. And even like, I'll get to the main event, but the main event, I didn't expect it to be crazy, but it actually was. And then Bobby Green he's like one of the, like a few, like I want to say 8 fighters that's fought 3 times this year. And he's beaten in his last outing. He beat a really tough guy in Lando Venata. And then he fought, I forget her earlier this year. He beat Clay Guida. And then he fought Alan Patrick on Saturday. And Alan Patrick was, I think, because Bobby Green, he's kind of more like a striker, has his hands down, pretty cocky kind of guy. And he's kind of having a resurgence in his career. But Alan Patrick, I think he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. And he was trying to get the fight to the ground. But Bobby Green was like, screw that. I'm going to use my experience. And he like kind of turned the tables, and Bobby Green showed off a really impressive performance because instead of utilizing striking, even though he did get a lot of strikes in, he utilized his wrestling and takedown defense. And a lot, like when Alan Patrick tried to get the fight to the ground, he kind of reversed the takedowns and ended up landing on top, even though it was Alan Patrick that was trying to initiate the takedown. And then Bobby Green he got in a groove where he was like, I'm just going to start taking him down myself because I'm having success here. And he's like in his last 3 performances, he's shown that he can strike with the best guys in the division, like Lando Venata, who's fought like Tony Ferguson. And then he just showed that he can grapple with an amazing, like with Alan Patrick, who I think is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So yeah, pretty impressive. Bobby Green, he's going to be a problem. And then the Ed Herman fight. Ed Herman's like 40 years old, was on The Ultimate Fighter 3 with Michael Bisping, the announcer. And then he fought Mike Rodriguez, who looked pretty good. Mike Rodriguez was basically destroying Ed Herman and even hit him with a knee. And Ed Herman freaking fell down, and it should have been a TKO. Like he literally didn't want to fight anymore. And And Mike Rodriguez was trying to follow up with punches just to stop the fight. And then I forget who it was. I forget exactly what referee. He like said no, like stop. And he's like, it was a illegal groin shot. And they looked at the replay. The guy hit him it was just a hard body shot. And Ed Herman kind of just faked it and stuff. And Michael Bisping called him out after. He's like, I just want to like talk about that one sequence in the fight where you were down. And like, it was so stupid. But the even crazier part is Mike Rodriguez ended up losing the fight. He got caught in a Kimura in like the 3rd round. And Ed Herman Ed Herman's tough as hell, but like it was just super annoying that Mike Rodriguez got a dub basically stolen from him just because a referee missed a groin shot. Like, it wasn't even close. It was just frustrating. But the UFC, Dana White ended up giving Mike Rodriguez his like winning money, because you get like half to show up and then half to win or whatever. And so, yeah, Mike Rodriguez looks really good. He's super big and strong for the light heavyweight division. And Ed Herman looked kind of outmatched. And then as for Roxanne Modafferi and Lee, I didn't really watch too much of that fight, but Roxanne took the dub. Yeah, and then for the co-main, Ottman Azaitar versus Kama Worthy. Kama Worthy's kind of like on a tear. He's beat Devontae Smith and Luis Pena, who are both really good strikers, but he kind of met his match against Ottman Azaitar, who's now 13-0. Crazy overhand right, crazy power. And Ottman kind of just, he stunned him, wobbled him, and then just heavy ground and pound. And Kama Worthy was so out of it that he wanted to like argue the stoppage, but it was like, dude, you're literally out. And it was a really good stoppage by Herb Dean, because Kama Worthy didn't need to take any more strikes to the head. But Kama Worthy is a good contender, but Ottman Azaitar is going to be a really big problem for the lightweight division, especially because he's only 30. Not yet. I mean, he's probably like in his prime right now. Hasn't lost. Has all the confidence in the world. Just beat a really well-respected contender. So it's going to be interesting to see what the UFC has in store for him next. And then as for the main event, close split decision between Angela Hill. Angela Hill was the first since Glover Teixeira got COVID and Thiago Santa. That fight is getting rescheduled for later in October. But like, Angela Hill is the first ever African-American female to headline a UFC fight night, or just card in general, which is pretty sweet. She put on a really good performance. Her and Michelle Waterson basically fought their asses off. And just because Angela Hill lost a close split decision, both of them definitely have nothing. Like, Angela Hill has nothing to hang her head over. Like, both of those girls won, and both of them proved themselves to be top women's strawweight. So that basically wraps that up. And another thing I wanted to say is there was a weird situation where I think it was about 2 years ago when it took place. Did you hear about this? The wrestler, they got executed. So basically, there was a wrestler in Iran or Iran that decided to protest, but apparently that's against the wrestler's name is Naveed Afkari, and apparently protesting. I forget what exactly they're protesting for, but it's against the law there, and he ended up getting executed in the UFC in the US. He was literally hung for just like a peaceful protest. But the UFC tried to save him. And even Donald Trump sent a tweet out, like a half-assed tweet, didn't mean anything. But yeah, at least he tried. But I mean, like, it's just tough when you're trying to intervene with a different country. You know what I mean? They're just basically going to do what they want to do. But it's super sad to see. And Bobby Green was pretty upset after the fact. Like in his post-fight interview, I think he just found out what happened to the wrestler and that he was executed, and he like didn't want to talk. He was just like, I'm done. But it's just really scary to think that there's places out there where, because this literally could have been a UFC fighter, right? And Dana White, it could have been almost out of his control whether he could save his UFC fight or not. And it's just really sad. But this guy was like a world champion wrestler, and it's just like crazy that, like, it's just weird that, like, right now in America especially, like, we're protesting, we're exercising our right, and like people can do that without even thinking it, and people are even taking advantage of it, you know what I mean? And there's some people that literally have to do it, and the consequences for it could mean losing their life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy, the different parts of the world. And like, I don't know, it's vastly different. Like, I don't know. It's just really sad and just crazy time we live in. You know what I mean? But yeah, that basically wraps up UFC fights for last Saturday. Crazy. Michelle Waterson versus Angela Hill basically saved that card. I was really looking forward to the Glover Teixeira versus Thiago Santos fight, but that fell through, and that'll be later in October. I think like October 13th or something like that. But yeah, anything you want to say, Jonah?
Not really.
No?
No.
You have to watch next Saturday. That we'll make an episode. I'm going to my grandparents tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring some of my stuff so then we can do our episode on Tuesday and just pick our games really fast. And then after Monday, I'll add up everything, like our records. But yeah.
And
yes,
then maybe
sir.
on Thursday or Friday night, we can bring back the old school UFC prediction podcast.
No, yeah, for sure. I want to do predictions for this. I'll read out some of the fights because I really hope all of them stay like in place because especially this Waterson versus Hill fight card, there was a lot of mixing and changing, just because everything's so unpredictable right now.
Yeah.
But so it's freaking crazy. So Tyson Nam, who's supposed to fight on the Michelle Waterson cards on this card, he's going to be fighting Jerome Rivera. And then we've got like Andre Ewell versus Erwin Rivera. We've got Jordan Espinoza versus David Vorak. We've got Darren Stewart versus Kevin Holland, which is going to be a banger. Kevin Holland's a stud. And then Mackenzie Dern versus Ronda Marcos. Mackenzie Dern coming off a win like earlier in this summer, I think, against Hannah Cyphers. Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann is going to be cool. Johnny Walker, I think he's lost his last couple fights, but yeah, he's lost his last couple fights to Corey Anderson and Nikita Krylov, but he's trying to get back on track because before that, he was literally trying to call out John Jones for the light heavyweight title because he's such a big, long, kind of striker, and he does crazy stuff, but that gets him in trouble because guys just take him down and neutralize him there. So I'm interested to see if that fight ends up going to the ground and if he has shown or if he's improved at all. And then obviously Hamza Chimaev versus Gerald Meerschaert, which is such an interesting dynamic there. Like if anybody knows UFC, you probably have heard like Hamza Chimaev, they've already scheduled him a fight after this to fight in Fight Island. And Gerald Meerschaert's taking that really personally because they haven't really done this ever where they've scheduled 2 fights for a guy. And so Gerald's like, I just want to ruin their plans because like this guy is kind of taking the UFC by storm and he just wants to crush the hype train. But I just think poor Gerald, bro. Like he's good and stuff, but Hamza Chimaev's on a different level. And unless he's fighting like a really big light heavyweight, I just can't see anybody in his like actual weight class beating him. He's just going to manhandle you, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I hope Gerald Meerschaert does well, but I just don't see anyone really beating Hamzat. And then Donald Cowboy Cerrone's coming back for a co-main event against Nico Price. Nico Price is coming off he fought Vicente Luque in his last fight. Vicente Luque is an absolute savage. Nico Price did well, but ended up getting caught and knocked out. And he's been out for a while. He's been really active, like watching the fights because, like there's like the little Twitter box where it shows up, like, and people comment like on the fights. Okay. He's always on there. And then obviously Donald Cowboy Cerrone's back. I think this will be his 3rd time this year fighting. He obviously lost to Connor in January, and then I thought he beat Anthony Pettis, but they gave Anthony Pettis like the decision. And then obviously Colby Chaos Covington versus Tyron Woodley. It's going to be so interesting to see that fight because Tyron Woodley appears to be on the decline from where he was as a champion last year. And Colby Covington, it's going to be interesting to see how he recovers. I don't see a dip off from him. His fight with Kamaru Usman later last year was so competitive, and he's just an absolute savage. Has a record for most strikes thrown. I watched his fight earlier, like last year, where he set the record. He's thrown like, I forget, it was over 500 strikes in a fight. He threw over 500 strikes against Robbie Lawler, and he basically manhandled Robbie Lawler, who's an absolute animal. So I'm just really excited for that whole entire fight card. I would literally pay $60 to watch that, but luckily we get it for not free because you have to have ESPN Plus, I think.
Basically free.
Basically free. But yeah, and we'll definitely do predictions for that. But I don't want to do them too early because
you need some time to think it over.
Well, I think I have my picks here, but I just really hope none of them fall through.
That's pretty impressive that Covington kid was competitive with Kamaru Usman. That's probably like a very short list of fighters that could give Usman like a good match. Right?
110%. It was 2-2 going into the 5th round, and Colby Covington, if he didn't get caught with that right hand or with it, he had his jaw open and when he wasn't ready for a shot and Kamaru hit him really hard. If that never happened, I really think that Colby is the welterweight champion right now. Also, Colby, a similar issue that transpired with Ed Herman in that fight with Mike Rodriguez, where the official saw a groin shot when it actually wasn't. Mark Goddard, Colby kicked Kamaru to the body, and it was actually like a liver shot, I think. And Mark Goddard stopped the fight saying it was a groin shot, but it was a clear body shot that literally folded Kamaru Usman. And if that wasn't called as a groin strike, we could be looking at a completely different welterweight picture right now. We could be looking at Colby Covington as being the current welterweight champion of the world, which is really interesting. I think that a few more fights, like if Colby beats Tyron Woodley, he's right back in that picture to fight for the title. But yeah, I just think Colby has such a good thing going for him right now because people want to see him lose, so everyone's going to come in and watch, and everyone's tuning in to watch Tyron Woodley if he can have a resurgence and like knock out Colby Covington. But it's like, I hate to rain on everyone's parade. It's not going to happen. Like what you think in the back, what you want to happen, and what in the back of your head's going to happen. Like what you want versus what is going to happen. Like we all know Colby Covington's going to win this fight. You know what I mean?
Do you think that this fight is kind of like beneath Colby Covington? Like what a guy like
110%. He's only taking this fight because it's easy.
Would he be offended to like not be put on a pay-per-view though?
Oh, what do you mean?
Like, do you think he would be like offended that he's on just like an ESPN Plus like fight night instead of like on the pay-per-view?
Yeah, but he's the main event, so he's getting serious cash.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if he wasn't the main event on a pay-per-view card, he wouldn't fight.
Yeah.
But since he's the main event on like a fight night, he is definitely game. But this fight, he's not getting Tyron Woodley when he was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley. So he's not concerned at all, dude. And it's like there's a story like that Tyron Woodley, he's maybe had success against Colby Covington in the cage, but that's like a long time ago. This is like prime Colby Covington now versus Tyron Woodley that's kind of already out, like 1 foot out the door, wants to get involved with like other TV gigs, rapping career, So, and we're looking at a Colby Covington that's completely focused and has a small training group. And it's interesting though, he's not like talking too much beforehand, but that should change. And he's already kind of solidified his shtick and his niche as like being the bad guy. And that alone kind of sells fights. You know what I mean? But yeah, super exciting. And then UFC is obviously coming back to Fight Island, which is really exciting. So yeah, do you have anything else you want to add? Or is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I think we should give our performers of the week.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I forgot about that. So you want to go first?
Sure. For my guy, I'll go with the obvious NBA pick. So I'll pick Nikola Jokic just because he's basically been the guy who's been stressing out the Clippers defense, and he's been the guy who brought the Nuggets back into the series. He's kind of playing the best basketball of his career right now, which is surprising because the Clippers, I feel like they've done a good job of taking away his primary choice on offense, which is finding cutters and finding good passing angles. And the Clippers have actually done a good job of shutting that down and actually forcing Jokic into a bunch of turnovers. But Jokic is just scoring better than he ever has at any point in his career. He's hitting three-pointers at an insane clip, especially over the past 2 games. he's hitting shots over basically any non-Ivica Zubac's defender the Clippers try to guard him with. And he's basically played the sixth man of the year, Montrezl Harrell, off the floor. So those are the reasons Nikola Jokic has to be my performer of the week.
Yep. 100%. I agree. And I'm going to be really sad to see the Nuggets if they win Game 7. I'm not going to be sad per se, but I'm just going to be like kind of shocked and confused.
Yeah, me too.
It'd be crazy. Too. So
I still like the Clippers in a Game 7 though.
Yeah, probably. I don't see Kawhi's going to go off. He's going to score like 40 points.
I think it's going to be more low scoring. I think the Clippers are going to get probably a 12 or 14 point lead in the second and third quarters, kind of like they have been doing. I think we're going to see the Nuggets come back and get it to within like 6 or 4. And then from there, it's just going to come down to like the next couple of possessions, whether the Nuggets can kind of break through that barrier and tie it up. And then we'll have a barn burner in the last few minutes, or if the Clippers can kind of restore order. But yeah, ultimately, like you said, I got to trust Kawhi in a game like this.
Yeah. And so I'm going to have a couple performers of the week. So I'm obviously going to go with Kevin Kroom, he was a massive underdog against Roosevelt Roberts. It was like the biggest underdog on the card. Obviously clipped him with the left overhand and then caught Roosevelt in the guillotine. Kind of shocked the world there. And then I got to kind of eat my pride a little bit here and recognize good players when I see them. And I got to go with Budda Baker, who's an absolute savage, flies around the field. They put him in the box. He might not get the most interceptions, but he had a total of 15 tackles. I think it was like 10 solo, 5 assisted. He really helps out in the box, especially against a good running team like the San Francisco 49ers. And he's a really hard hitter. Basically hurt George Kittle today, like just with a clean hard hit. And he just flies around the field. And I just gotta give credit where credit's due. You know what I mean? Give some love to the UW man. But Budda Baker, dude, that man earned his off-season cash because I think they extended him, right? Or they re-signed him. Pretty sure they did. But yeah, Budda Baker's a savage. Just adding on, because I'm pretty sure he had like 147 tackles last year alone. He's a tackling machine. And I even think he plays hurt. He did not look good at times during the game, but he still stuck in there. But yep, I think that basically wraps up a little quickie episode.
How did week 1 go for your fantasy team?
I lost both ones.
Oh.
We'll go over that a little bit more on Tuesday.
Okay. Sounds good.
Or not. Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday for sure.
When we've got our NFL expert on the show. Yeah,
exactly. And we drop that on Wednesday, and then that'll be perfect time before Thursday Night Football, our predictions. But yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jonah, for doing this. I know this probably wasn't the most exhilarating episode for you.
No, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.